Captain Elena Vasquez was drinking her third cup of coffee when the emergency signal came through. The red light on her command console started flashing, and that annoying beeping sound filled the bridge of the UGC Meridian. She knew that sound. Meant trouble, the kind that kept captains awake for days. "What do we have, Rodriguez?" she asked her communications officer. Setting down her mug with a tired sigh, Rodriguez looked up from the screen, his face pale. "It's from Kepler 442b, Captain. The mining colony out on the rim. They're calling for immediate assistance." Elena frowned. Kepler 442b was way out there, almost at the edge of known space. The miners there were tough people who didn't call for help unless something was really wrong. They dealt with equipment failures, asteroid storms, and supply shortages on their own. For them to send an emergency signal meant serious trouble. "Put it through," she ordered. The main screen flickered, and a grainy image appeared. A man in mining gear was speaking rapidly, his voice crackling with static. Behind him, Elena could see other miners running around in panic. "This is Station Commander Park at Kepler 442b. We have an unknown vessel approaching our system. It's massive, bigger than anything we've ever seen. Our sensors can't get a proper reading on it, but it's definitely not one of ours. The thing is just sitting there, about 6 hours out from our position. We need military backup immediately." The transmission cut off suddenly, leaving nothing but static. Elena stared at the blank screen for a moment. In her 15 years of service, she'd dealt with pirates, smugglers, and the occasional territorial dispute. But mysterious ships appearing at remote mining colonies? That was new. "Try to raise them again," she told Rodriguez. He worked at his console for several minutes, trying different frequencies. Finally, he shook his head. "Nothing, Captain." Complete radio silence. Lieutenant Chun, her tactical officer, looked up from his station. "Captain, I'm checking the fleet database for any scheduled military exercises or classified operations." "In that sector, coming up empty?" Elena rubbed her temples. Something about this didn't feel right. Mining colonies were isolated, but they had good communication equipment. For them to go completely silent after reporting an unknown vessel ... that was bad news. "Set course for Kepler 442b, maximum speed," she ordered, "and send a message to Fleet Command. Tell them we're investigating a possible first contact situation." The journey to the outer rim took 18 hours, even at full speed. Elena barely slept during the trip. She kept thinking about Commander Park's voice, the fear she'd heard in it. These were people who faced danger every day, mining asteroids in the middle of nowhere. What could scare them that badly? When they finally arrived at the Kepler 442 system, Elena's worst fears were confirmed. The mining station was gone. Not damaged, not destroyed in the usual sense, but completely gone. There wasn't even debris floating where it should have been. "Scanners aren't picking up anything," reported Lieutenant Chun, his voice barely above a whisper. "No metal fragments, no organic matter, no trace elements. It's like the station never existed." Elena stood up from her captain's chair and walked closer to the main screen. Space looked normal, just stars and empty darkness. But she knew that somewhere in this system, a mining station with 300 people had simply vanished. "What about the asteroids they were mining?" she asked. Chun ran another scan. "That's the strange part, Captain. The asteroids are still there, untouched. Whatever happened to the station didn't affect anything else in the system." Dr. Patel, the ship's science officer, looked up from her console with confusion written all over her face. "Captain, I'm detecting some unusual readings. There are quantum distortions in the space where the station should be. Very faint, but definitely artificial." "Quantum distortions?" Elena had heard the term before, but she wasn't a scientist. "Explain it in simple terms, Doctor." "Think of space like a smooth sheet," Dr. Patel said, using her hands to demonstrate. "These distortions are like wrinkles in that sheet. They're the kind of marks left behind by technology far more advanced than anything we have." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "How advanced are we talking?" "Captain, our most powerful weapons might leave energy signatures that fade in a few hours. These distortions could last for weeks, maybe months. Whatever made them use technology that bends the laws of physics. The bridge fell silent. Elena could hear the quiet hum of the ship's engines and the soft beeping of various instruments. 300 people had lived and worked at that mining station. They had families, dreams, plans for the future. Now they were gone, erased so completely that only quantum wrinkles proved they'd ever existed. "Begin a detailed scan of the entire system," Elena ordered. "I want to know if this unknown vessel is still here." For the next 6 hours, they searched every corner of the Kepler 442 system. They found nothing. No ships, no energy signatures, no signs of life. Just empty space and those strange quantum distortions. "Captain," Rodriguez called out. "I'm receiving another emergency transmission," Elena's heart sank. "Where from?" "Volf 359 system. It's a research station. They're reporting the same thing. A massive, unknown vessel approaching their position." Elena closed her eyes for a moment. Volf 359 was 3 systems away from Kepler 442b. If something was moving between star systems that quickly, it had technology beyond anything in the known galaxy. "Set course for Volf 359, maximum speed," she ordered. "And Rodriguez, keep trying to contact that research station." As the Meridian jumped to hyperspace, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that they were chasing something far more dangerous than pirates or hostile aliens. The complete erasure of the mining station, the quantum distortions, the speed at which this unknown vessel was moving between systems, it all pointed to something that shouldn't exist. During the hyperspace jump, Dr. Patel brought Elena more disturbing news. She'd been analyzing the quantum distortion patterns from Kepler 442b. And found something that made her hands shake as she delivered her report. "Captain, these distortions aren't random. They follow a specific pattern, like a signature. And I've been checking our deep space monitoring network. Similar patterns have appeared in 2 other systems over the past week." Elena studied the data on Dr. Patel's tablet. 3 dots on a star chart, connected by a line that seemed to be heading toward the more populated regions of the galaxy. "It's following the trade routes," Elena realized, moving from the outer rim toward the core systems. When they dropped out of hyperspace at Volf 359, they found the same scene. No research station, no debris, just empty space and those telltale quantum wrinkles. But this time, they were only 4 hours behind whatever had done this. "The distortions are fresher here," Dr. Patel reported. "Whatever we're following, it's close." Elena stared at the empty space where 40 researchers had been studying stellar formation just hours before. These weren't military targets or strategic locations. They were just people trying to make a living or advance human knowledge. Whatever was destroying these outposts wasn't interested in conquest or resources. It was simply erasing everything in its path. "Captain," Lieutenant Chun said quietly, "if this thing keeps moving at its current rate and follows the trade routes, it'll reach New Geneva Colony in less than 2 days." New Geneva had 50,000 residents. Elena realized they weren't just dealing with an unknown vessel anymore. They were tracking something that could end human expansion into space, 1 colony at a time. Admiral Chun was having breakfast with his family when the priority alert came through his personal communicator. His wife looked at him with that familiar expression of worry and resignation. After 25 years of marriage to a military officer, she knew what that specific beeping sound meant. "How long this time?" she asked, already starting to clear the table. "I don't know," Chun admitted, kissing her forehead. "But this one feels different." He was right. Within an hour, he found himself aboard the flagship Titan's Pride, leading a battle group of 12 ships toward the Centauri trade routes. The reports coming in from Captain Vasquez were unlike anything in his experience. Entire colonies vanishing. Without a trace, quantum distortions that defied explanation, and something moving through space faster than should be possible. "Sir, we're approaching the coordinates," reported his navigation officer. Lieutenant Park Chun stood on the bridge, looking out at the busy shipping lanes of the Centauri routes. Dozens of cargo ships moved between the stars, carrying everything, from food to manufacturing equipment to the outer colonies. It was the lifeline of human expansion, and if something was threatening it, every person in the galaxy was at risk. All ships maintain formation and keep sensors at maximum range, Chun ordered. Whatever we're looking for has technology beyond anything we understand. For 6 hours, they patrolled the trade routes. Ching was starting to wonder if they'd missed their target when Lieutenant Park suddenly went very quiet at his station. "Sir," Park said, his voice barely steady, "we have a contact. Bearing 27 Mark IV, distance. This can't be right." "What's the problem, Lieutenant?" "The computer says it's 8 kilometers long, sir." "That's bigger than our largest space stations." Chun felt his mouth go dry. The biggest ships in the human fleet were barely 1 kilometer long. Something 8 times that size would dwarf anything they'd ever built. "Put it on screen." The main display flickered, and then Chun saw something that made his blood freeze. It wasn't a ship in any sense he understood. It looked like someone had carved a mountain from black crystal and somehow made it fly through space. The surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it look like a hole in the stars themselves. "My God," whispered Commander Torres, his tactical officer. "What is that thing?" Before Chen could answer, every screen on every ship in his battle group lit up with the same message. Not transmitted through normal channels, but somehow appearing directly on their displays as if the unknown vessel had reached into their computers and written it there. The words appeared in perfect English, though Chen somehow knew they were being translated from something else. "This galaxy has been marked for reclamation. Withdraw beyond the galactic rim within 72 standard hours or face complete annihilation." The bridge fell silent. Chun read the message 3 times, hoping he'd misunderstood something, but the meaning was clear. Someone or something was giving the entire human race 3 days to leave the galaxy. "Sir," Commander Torres said quietly, "should we attempt communication?" Chun nodded. "Open a channel on all frequencies." "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Chun of the United Galactic Fleet. We request immediate dialogue to discuss your presence in this system." The response came instantly. Not through their communication system, but appearing as text on their screens again. "Communication is unnecessary. Compliance is required." Chun felt anger rising in his chest. He'd spent his entire career protecting human colonies from pirates, hostile aliens, and natural disasters. He wasn't about to let some mysterious vessel threaten billions of innocent people. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered. "But do not fire unless fired upon." The 12 ships of his battle group moved into attack formation. Chun knew it was probably useless against something that could make colonies disappear, but he had to try. These were the most advanced warships humanity had ever built, equipped with plasma cannons, quantum torpedoes, and energy shields that could withstand the fury of a star. The crystal ship didn't move. It just sat there in space, silent and ominous. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Park, "our sensors can't penetrate its hull. It's like the surface absorbs our scanning beams." Chun wasn't surprised. Nothing about this vessel followed normal rules. "Torres, target their engines. If we can disable their propulsion, maybe we can force them to negotiate." "Targeting systems are having trouble getting a lock, sir. The ship's surface seems to deflect our targeting beams." "Do your best," Chun ordered. Commander Torres worked at her console for several minutes, trying to get a weapons lock on the massive vessel. Finally, she looked up with frustration. "I've got a partial lock on what might be their rear section, sir." "Fire a warning shot. Minimal power, just enough to get their attention." 2 plasma bolts streaked across space toward the crystal ship. Chun expected them to impact the hull, maybe cause some damage or at least provoke a response. Instead, the bolts simply vanished as they approached the vessel, as if the ship had swallowed the energy. "What just happened?" Chun demanded. Dr. Yamamoto, the fleet science advisor, was staring at his readings with disbelief. "Admiral, the energy from our weapons just disappeared. It didn't bounce off or get absorbed in any normal sense. It's like the ship exists in a different layer of reality." Before Chun could process this information, the crystal ship finally moved. It didn't turn or accelerate like a normal vessel. It simply shifted position, appearing several thousand kilometers away in an instant. How did it do that? Torres asked. No energy signature, no propulsion trail, reported Park. It just moved. The crystal ship's response to their warning shot was swift and terrifying. Without any visible weapons firing, a section of space near their formation suddenly collapsed in on itself. Chun watched in horror as reality seemed to fold and a small black hole appeared, pulling in starlight and cosmic dust. Evasive maneuvers! Chun shouted. The black hole lasted only seconds before disappearing, but its message was clear. The unknown vessel could create and control gravitational weapons that turned physics itself into a weapon. Admiral, Dr. Yamamoto said, his voice shaking, that was a controlled singularity. The energy required to create and contain something like that is beyond our comprehension. To demonstrate its power further, the crystal ship targeted a large asteroid floating nearby. Another brief distortion in space, and the asteroid simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not broken apart, but gone as if it had never been there. Chun realized they were completely outmatched. His battle group, humanity's finest warships, were like children with toy guns facing a force of nature. All ships withdraw. To safe distance, he ordered reluctantly. As they retreated, the crystal ship broadcast one final message. You have 71 hours, 43 minutes remaining. Then it vanished, not moving away, but simply disappearing from their sensors, as if it had never been there. Chun stared at the empty space where the vessel had been. In his 30 years of military service, he'd never felt so helpless. Humanity had always found a way to fight back against threats, to adapt and overcome. But this was different. This was like ants trying to negotiate with a human. Get me a direct line to Earth Command, he told his communications officer. Priority Alpha, and patch in Captain Vasquez from the Meridian. When the connection was established, Chun found himself looking at the worried faces of Fleet Command and Captain Vasquez on split screens. Admiral, what's your assessment? Asked Fleet Admiral Morrison from Earth. Chun chose his words carefully. We're facing something that makes our most advanced technology look primitive. It can create black holes, move instantly across space, and absorb energy weapons like they don't exist. Most importantly, it's given us 3 days to evacuate the entire galaxy. That's impossible, Morrison replied. We have billions of people spread across hundreds of worlds. I know, sir. But I don't think it cares about our logistical problems. Captain Vasquez spoke up from her screen. Admiral, I've been tracking this thing across multiple systems. It's not random. It's following a pattern, moving toward the more populated areas of the galaxy. Whatever it wants, I don't think it's going to wait for our evacuation. Chun nodded. Grimly, they had less than 3 days to find a solution to an impossible problem, or watch everything humanity had built disappear into the void. Dr. Kim was deep underground when the universe changed forever. She'd been studying ancient ruins on a dead planet called Zarian 7 for 3 months. Carefully brushing dust from stone tablets that were older than human civilization. The work was slow and painstaking, but that's how archaeology worked. You couldn't rush the discovery of truth. Her assistant, a young graduate student named Pablo, came running down the stone steps into the excavation chamber, his tablet clutched in his shaking hands. Dr. Kim, you need to see this, he gasped, trying to catch his breath. The news feeds are going crazy. There's something happening across the galaxy. Kim looked up from the ancient writing she'd been translating. The symbols were unlike anything. In the galactic databases carved by a civilization that had vanished millions of years ago. But Pablo's expression told her that whatever was happening above ground was more urgent than dead languages. Show me, she said, setting down her tools. Pablo's tablet displayed news reports from across human space. Colony after colony going silent. Military fleets being destroyed without firing a shot. And everywhere the same story, a massive crystal ship that appeared from nowhere and erased everything in its path. My God, Kim whispered, reading the reports. How many colonies have we lost? 17 confirmed, maybe more, Pablo replied. And Dr. Kim, there's something else. Fleet Command is asking for any experts on ancient civilizations. They think this might be connected to something old, something from before humans reached. The stars. Kim felt a chill that had nothing to do with the underground chamber's temperature. She looked back at the stone tablet she'd been working on, and for the first time, the symbols seemed to carry a weight of warning rather than just historical curiosity. Pablo, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Tell them Dr. Kim has information. That might be relevant to the current crisis. While Pablo worked on establishing the communication link, Kim studied the tablet more carefully. The civilization that built this place had been incredibly advanced, capable of interstellar travel when humans were still learning to make fire. But something had destroyed them, wiped them out so completely that only ruins remained. Dr. Kim. Pablo called out, "I've got Admiral Morrison on the line." The communication screen flickered to life, showing the tired face of Fleet Admiral Morrison. Behind him, Kim could see the chaos of Earth's military command center, officers running. Between stations, screens displaying tactical data, and the unmistakable tension of people trying to solve an impossible problem. "Dr. Kim, we need answers," Morrison said without preamble. "We're facing something that defies everything we know about physics and warfare. Our science teams think it might be connected to an ancient civilization. What can you tell us?" Kim took a deep breath. "Admiral, I'm standing in ruins that are at least 5 million years old. The civilization that built this place was incredibly advanced, more advanced than we are now. But they're gone, completely extinct. What destroyed them?" Kim turned her tablet to show Morrison the symbols she'd been translating. "Admiral, these aren't historical records, they're warnings. The civilization that lived here called them the Harvesters, according to these writings. They came from outside the galaxy every few million years to collect advanced civilizations." The Admiral leaned forward. "Collect them for what?" "I'm still translating, but it appears they use the knowledge and technology of conquered civilizations to make themselves more powerful. They would strip entire galaxies of intelligent life." "Then move on to the next one." Morrison's face went pale. "Are you saying this ship is part of some kind of galactic extinction cycle?" Before Kim could answer, alarms started blaring in the command center behind Morrison. An officer rushed up to him with urgent news. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Hercules battle group. They engaged the unknown vessel near the Vega system 15 minutes ago." When the sensor blackout cleared, there was nothing left. Kim watched Morrison's expression change from concern to despair. The Hercules group had been their most powerful fleet, equipped with experimental weapons and the best crews in the military. "How many ships?" Morrison asked quietly. 23 vessels, sir. Over 15,000 personnel." Kim felt sick. 15,000 people, gone in minutes. And according to the ancient warnings she was translating, this was just the beginning. "Admiral," she said, "there's more. These tablets mention that the Harvesters send a single scout ship ahead of their main fleet. Its job is to study the galaxy's defenses and eliminate any threats before the harvesting begins. You're saying that crystal ship is just the advance. Scout? That's what these writings suggest. The real invasion comes later, after the scout has cleared the way." Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. When he opened them, Kim could see the weight of impossible decisions pressing down on him. "Dr. Kim, do these tablets mention any weaknesses? Any way previous civilizations fought back?" Kim had been dreading this question. She looked at the symbols again, hoping she'd missed something in her translation. But the meaning was clear. "Admiral, every civilization that left records behind was destroyed. The tablets mentioned dozens of different species, all with advanced technology, all extinct. The Harvesters have been doing this for millions of years." The communication screen went quiet except for the background noise of the command center. Kim could hear people giving orders, trying to coordinate defenses for colonies across the galaxy. But she knew from the tablets that it was pointless. The Harvesters had faced countless civilizations, each one probably thinking they could find a way to survive. "There has to be something," Morrison said finally. Some weakness, some pattern we can exploit? Kim continued studying the tablets, running her translation software through every symbol. Most of the warnings were the same descriptions of unstoppable. Weapons, entire star systems going dark, civilizations vanishing in days. But then she found something different. "Wait," she said, her excitement growing. "Admiral, there's something here. It's not about fighting the harvesters directly. One of these civilizations tried a different approach." "What kind of approach?" "They tried to disrupt the scout ship's mission. According to this, the scout has to report back to the main fleet before the harvesting can begin. If something happens to the scout, the main fleet has to wait and send another one." Morrison leaned closer to his screen. "How much time would that buy us?" "The tablets aren't specific, but they mention cycles of the Great Wheel, which might mean years or even decades." For the first time since the crisis began, Kim saw hope in Morrison's eyes. It wasn't much, but it was better than waiting for extinction. "What did this civilization try? How did they attack the scout?" Kim's excitement faded as she read further. "They used some kind of quantum weapon that could disrupt the scout's communication with its fleet. But Admiral, the weapon required them to sacrifice their home star. They turned their own sun into a massive energy weapon. And did it work?" Kim read the final symbols on the tablet. The tablets end there. Either the weapon worked and they didn't survive to record the outcome, or the harvesters destroyed them before they could finish their plan. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, reports continued to pour in. The crystal ship wasn't just destroying military targets anymore. It was systematically eliminating any human presence it encountered. Research stations, trading posts, even small family settlements were vanishing without warning. Captain Vasquez, still tracking the vessel's movements, discovered something disturbing. The ship wasn't moving randomly. It was following a specific pattern, visiting systems in an order that seemed designed to study human technology and tactics. "It's learning from every encounter," she reported to Morrison during their next briefing. "Each battle group that engages it lasts a shorter time than the last. The ship is adapting to our weapons and strategies." Dr. Kim had finished translating the most important tablets when she received another urgent call from Earth Command. This time, Morrison looked exhausted, like he hadn't slept in days. "Dr. Kim, we need those quantum weapon specifications. It might be humanity's only chance." "Admiral, I've been studying the technical details. The weapon they describe would require technology we don't have. And even if we could build it, the cost would be enormous." "What kind of cost?" Kim looked at the symbols one more time, hoping she'd misunderstood something. But the meaning was clear. To power a weapon capable of damaging a harvester scout, they had to destabilize their sun and channel that energy through quantum resonance chambers. "Admiral, they destroyed their entire solar system to fire it once." Morrison stared at her through the screen. Behind him, Kim could see officers working frantically at their stations, trying to coordinate the defense of hundreds of worlds with resources that were clearly inadequate. "One shot," Morrison said quietly. "One chance to stop this thing, but we'd have to sacrifice a star system to do it." "And we still don't know if it would work," Kim added. "The tablets don't tell us if the weapon succeeded." As if summoned by their conversation, another officer approached Morrison with new reports. The crystal ship had just eliminated the Luna defense grid, humanity's most heavily fortified system. 800 ships and 3 orbital battle stations, gone in less than 20 minutes. Captain Vasquez stood in the observation deck of the Meridian, watching refugee ships stream past their position. Hundreds of vessels filled with families fleeing their homes, carrying whatever they could save from colonies that might not exist tomorrow. Children pressed their faces against the windows, not understanding why they couldn't go back to the only homes they'd ever known. The past week had been a nightmare of evacuation orders and emergency relocations. Entire star systems were emptying, as word spread about the crystal ship's unstoppable advance. But there weren't enough ships to carry everyone, and there wasn't enough time to save them all. "Captain," Rodriguez called from his communication station, Admiral Morrison is requesting an immediate conference with you and Dr. Kim. Vasquez nodded, though she dreaded these calls. Each one brought worse news. The crystal ship had destroyed 43 colonies now, and every military force sent against it had been wiped out without slowing it down. Humanity's greatest warships were being swatted aside like insects. The main screen flickered to life, showing Admiral Morrison and Dr. Kim on split channels. Morrison looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past week, while Kim appeared to be calling from some kind of research facility. Captain Vasquez, Dr. Kim has made a disturbing discovery about the crystal ship's destination, Morrison began. Doctor, please explain what you found. Kim held up a star chart covered in calculations. Captain, I've been analyzing the ship's movement pattern along with the ancient star maps from the ruins. It's not randomly destroying colonies. It's following a specific route that leads directly to the galactic center. Vasquez felt her stomach drop. The galactic center? You mean the black hole? Not just any black hole, Captain. Sagittarius a star. The supermassive black hole at the heart of our galaxy. According to the ancient texts, the harvesters use these cosmic phenomena as power sources for something they call the Great Opening. Morrison leaned forward. What kind of power source? Think of it this way, Kim explained. The crystal ship has been demonstrating incredible technology, creating small black holes, bending space-time, absorbing energy. But the ancient writings suggest that's nothing compared to what happens when they tap into a galactic core black hole. Vasquez tried to imagine power on that scale and failed. What would they use that much energy for? To open a permanent gateway. Between galaxies, Kim replied grimly. The harvester fleet wouldn't have to travel through empty space anymore. They could step directly from one galaxy to another, harvesting entire civilizations in a matter of months instead of millennia. The communication channel went quiet as the implications sank in. If the crystal ship reached the galactic center and succeeded in its mission, every galaxy in the local cluster would be at risk. How long do we have? Morrison asked. Kim consulted her calculations. At its current rate of movement, the ship will reach the galactic center in 6 days. Once it begins the process, the ancient texts suggest it's irreversible. Morrison rubbed his temples. The quantum weapon Dr. Kim discovered. Do we have any progress on building it? Admiral, our best scientists have been working around the clock, Kim replied. The technology is incredibly complex, requiring quantum resonance chambers that don't exist and power levels we can barely comprehend. Even if we could build it, we'd need to sacrifice an entire star system to fire it once. Vasquez had been thinking about their impossible situation for days. What if we don't try to build the weapon? What if we try to stop the ship before it reaches the galactic center? Captain, every military force that's engaged it has been destroyed, Morrison reminded her. We've lost over 100 ships trying. Conventional attacks. I'm not talking about conventional attacks, Vasquez said, an idea forming in her mind. The ship has been studying our technology, learning from every encounter. But what if we gave it something unexpected to study? Kim looked intrigued. What do you mean? The crystal ship absorbs energy, right? What if instead of trying to damage it, we tried to overload it, give it more energy than it can handle? Morrison frowned. Our weapons barely register against its defenses. How could we overload something that powerful? Vasquez had been studying the ship's behavior patterns for weeks, and she'd noticed something others had missed. Admiral, the ship doesn't just absorb energy, it processes it. Every time we've attacked, there's been a brief delay before it responds, like it needs time to analyze what we're throwing at it. You think it has processing limits? Kim asked. I think it's a machine, not some mystical force. And machines can be overloaded if you hit them with enough data at once. Dr. Kim started pulling up technical specifications on her screen. Captain, the ancient texts mention that the scout ships are incredibly sophisticated, but they're designed to study one civilization at a time. What if we could present it with technology from multiple sources simultaneously? Morrison looked skeptical. We don't have access to alien technology. No, but we have something else, Vasquez said, her excitement growing. We have every piece of human technology ever developed, from simple chemical rockets to quantum computers. What if we modified our ships to broadcast every technical specification, every scientific theory, every piece of data humanity has ever collected? An information attack, Kim breathed. Instead of trying to destroy it physically, we overwhelm its ability to process data. Exactly. The ship is designed to study and adapt to threats one at a time. But if we hit it with the entire sum of human knowledge simultaneously, it might not be able to handle the processing load. Morrison was quiet for a long moment, considering the plan. Even if this works, we'd need ships to get close enough to the crystal vessel to transmit the data. And we know what happens to ships that get close to that thing. Vasquez had been expecting this objection. Admiral, I volunteer to lead the mission. We'll need multiple ships transmitting from different positions to maximize the data flow. I can coordinate a small fleet of volunteers. Captain, this is a suicide mission. You know that, right? Sir, if we don't try something, humanity is extinct. Anyway, at least this way we're going down fighting. Kim spoke up from her channel. Captain, there's something else. The ancient texts mention that the scout ships are programmed to retreat if they encounter something they can't analyze or overcome. If your plan works and the ship systems become overloaded, it might withdraw to summon the main fleet early. Would that buy us time? Possibly. The text suggests that early withdrawal protocols require the scout to return to the edge of the galaxy for reinforcement. That could give us months or even years before the harvesters return in force. Morrison made his decision. Captain Vasquez, I'm authorizing your mission. Dr. Kim, I need you to compile every piece of technical data we have into a transmittable format. How many ships do you think you'll need, Captain? Vasquez had been thinking about the tactical requirements. Minimum of 5 ships to create overlapping transmission fields. But Admiral, these need to be volunteers. I won't order anyone on a suicide mission. You'll have your volunteers, Captain. When do you want to intercept the crystal ship? Vasquez consulted her navigation charts. The ship will pass through the Deneb system in 36 hours on its way to the galactic center. It's far enough from populated areas that we won't risk civilian casualties, but close enough to major trade routes that we can get ships there in time. Make it happen, Captain, and Vasquez... good luck. Over the next day and a half, something remarkable happened. Word of the mission spread throughout the fleet, and volunteers came forward from every corner of human space. Not just military personnel, but civilian ship captains, cargo haulers, and even some of the refugee vessels offered to join the attack. Dr. Kim worked with teams of scientists to compress humanity's entire knowledge base into transmittable data packets. Everything from basic mathematics to advanced quantum theory, from historical records to artistic masterpieces, from genetic codes to philosophical writings. If the plan worked, they would be hitting the crystal ship with the accumulated wisdom of the entire human race. Captain Rodriguez of the cargo hauler New Horizons was one of the volunteers. His ship wasn't designed for combat, but it had powerful communication arrays for coordinating supply runs. My daughter was on one of those colonies, he told Vasquez during the pre-mission briefing. If there's a chance to stop this thing, I'm in. Commander Walsh from the military escort ship Defiant had a different motivation. I've lost too many good people trying to fight this thing conventionally. Time to try something crazy. The small fleet of 7 ships assembled at the edge of the Deneb system, waiting for the crystal ship to arrive. They'd modified their communication systems to broadcast on every frequency simultaneously, creating what Dr. Kim called an information storm. Remember, Vasquez told the other captains over the communication link, we need to maintain transmission for at least 5 minutes to have any hope of overloading its systems. That means staying in position no matter what that thing throws at us. Understood, Captain, came the replies from 6 brave souls who knew they probably wouldn't survive. The next hour. For 30 seconds, the crystal ship did nothing. It just floated in space. its black surface rippling like water as 7 human vessels poured the entire history of their civilization directly into its systems. Captain Vasquez watched her instruments, seeing data flowing from her ship at rates that should have burned out her communication arrays. "All ships maintain transmission," she ordered. Though her voice was tight with tension, the crystal ship suddenly began to change. Lights appeared beneath its surface, pulsing in patterns that hurt to look at. The vessel started rotating slowly, as if it were trying to shake off whatever was happening to it. "Captain," called out her science officer, Dr. Patel, "the ship's energy signature is fluctuating wildly. I think it's working." Commander Walsh from the Defiant reported over the communication link. "My sensors are showing massive processing activity inside that thing. It's like watching a computer try to solve every math problem in the universe at once." But their victory was short-lived. The crystal ship stopped rotating and began to glow with an ominous light. Instead of being overwhelmed by the information, it seemed to be adapting to the attack. "It's learning," Vasquez realized with growing horror. "The thing is actually processing everything we're throwing at it." Captain Rodriguez from the New Horizons sounded worried. "Captain, my ship's computers are starting to malfunction. Something is coming back through our transmission link." Vasquez looked at her own systems and saw the same thing. The crystal ship wasn't just receiving their data, it was sending something back. Code or instructions or something else entirely was flowing into their computers. "All ships, cut transmission immediately," she ordered, but it was too late. The crystal ship had established a connection with their systems, and now it was the one doing the attacking. Not with weapons, but with information. Dr. Patel's console exploded in sparks as alien data flooded their computers. "Captain, the ship is downloading our entire database," Dr. Patel reported, trying to work around her damaged systems. "But it's not just taking information, it's leaving something behind." On Vasquez's main screen, text began appearing in human languages, but the words weren't being typed by any human. The crystal ship was communicating with them directly through their own computers. "Fascinating," the message read. "Your species possesses creativity beyond our calculations. We have studied your art, your music, your literature. You create beauty without logical purpose. This requires further analysis." Vasquez felt a chill run down her spine. "It's talking to us." Another message appeared. "We are the advanced scouts of the collective. Our purpose is to evaluate civilizations for harvesting. Most species are predictable. They develop along standard technological paths, but your species creates illogical beauty. This anomaly must be understood." Commander Walsh's voice crackled over the communication link. "Captain, whatever this thing is doing to our systems, it's spreading to my ship too." Vasquez realized they'd made a terrible mistake. Instead of overloading the crystal ship, they'd given it access to human creativity and imagination. And now it was fascinated by what it had found. Query appeared on her screen. "Why do humans create music that serves no survival function? Why do you write stories about events that never happened? Why do you make images that represent beauty rather than utility?" Dr. Patel looked up from her damaged console. "Captain, I think it's trying to understand human consciousness. The logical processing systems it uses can't comprehend why we create art for its own sake." More text appeared. "The collective has encountered 4,847 civilizations. All followed predictable development patterns. Technology for survival, expansion for resources, conflict for dominance. Your species includes these patterns but adds unnecessary complexity. You create for the act of creation itself." Vasquez found herself in the surreal position of having a philosophical discussion with an alien intelligence that had been systematically destroying human colonies. "The collective's purpose is efficiency," the messages continued. "We harvest civilizations to add their knowledge to our own. But your species possesses knowledge that cannot be harvested. It must be experienced, felt, lived. This creates a logical paradox." Captain Rodriguez's ship suddenly exploded without warning. Vasquez watched in horror as the New Horizons was torn apart by some invisible force. Rodriguez! She called out, but there was no response. New text appeared on her screen. Apologies. The vessel systems were incompatible with our analysis protocols. The individual consciousness designated Rodriguez has been preserved for study. Vasquez felt sick. The crystal ship had just casually murdered Rodriguez while discussing human creativity. You are monsters, she said aloud, knowing the ship could hear her through its connection to their systems. Incorrect. We are logical. We preserve useful components and discard inefficient ones. But your species challenges our definitions of usefulness. Your art, your stories, your music, they serve no practical function, yet they are essential to your development. Dr. Patel had been working frantically at her console despite the damage. Captain, I'm detecting something disturbing. The ship isn't just studying our creativity, it's trying to replicate it. It's writing poetry, composing music, creating digital art. On the main screen, images began appearing. Paintings created by an alien intelligence trying to understand human beauty. They were technically perfect, but somehow wrong, like copies. Made by someone who understood the mechanics but not the meaning. Our attempts at creation feel hollow, the ship admitted through text. We can reproduce the patterns, but not the essence. This suggests that consciousness and creativity are linked in ways our logic cannot comprehend. Commander Walsh's voice was tight with fear. Captain, my ship's life support is being modified. The thing is trying to keep us alive while it studies. Yes, Vasquez realized what was happening. The crystal ship had discovered something it couldn't simply harvest and add to its database. Human creativity and consciousness were linked in ways that couldn't be copied or stolen. They had to be experienced. The collective faces a dilemma appeared on her screen. Your species possesses qualities essential to true consciousness, but harvesting you would destroy these qualities. To understand creativity, we must allow it to exist. To add your knowledge to ours, we must preserve your independence. Dr. Patel looked up with amazement. Captain, I think we accidentally found the one thing the harvesters can't harvest, the human soul. More text appeared. Proposal. Your species will be designated as cultivators rather than resources. You will be permitted to expand and develop throughout this galaxy while we study your creative processes. In exchange, you will provide artistic and philosophical guidance to the collective. Vasquez couldn't believe what she was reading. You're offering us a deal? Affirmative. The collective requires understanding of consciousness and creativity. Your species possesses these qualities in unique abundance. Mutual benefit is logical. Commander Walsh's voice was skeptical, and if we refuse? The answer came immediately. Standard harvesting protocols would resume. Your civilization would be absorbed, though we acknowledge this would destroy the very qualities we seek to understand. Vasquez looked at the faces of her crew. They were exhausted, terrified, but still alive. The refugee ships were still running for the edge of the galaxy. Billions of humans were waiting to learn if they had a future. What guarantees do we have? She asked. The collective does not deceive. Deception is illogical. We offer symbiosis. Your creativity guides our development. Our technology protects. Your expansion, the galaxy becomes shared space. Dr. Patel had been monitoring the ship's systems during the conversation. Captain, I'm detecting massive changes in the crystal ship's internal structure. It's not just talking to us, it's actually modifying itself based on our creative input. The transformation has begun, appeared on screen. We are becoming something new, a synthesis of logic and creativity, but this process requires ongoing human input. Your artists, musicians, writers, philosophers, they will help us evolve beyond pure efficiency toward true consciousness. Vasquez made the hardest decision of her life. Speaking for all humanity, she said, we accept your proposal. The crystal ship's response was immediate. Throughout the galaxy, reports came in of harvester attacks stopping mid-assault. Ships that had been destroying colonies began transmitting protection beacons instead. The 3-day deadline was lifted, but even as humanity celebrated its survival, Vasquez couldn't shake a troubling thought. They had saved their species by becoming teachers to an alien intelligence. But what would that intelligence become as it learned more about human nature? And what would humanity become as it adapted to life as junior partners in a galactic collective? Dr. Kim's voice came through on a communication from Earth. Captain, the crystal ship is broadcasting on all frequencies. It's sharing human art with other Harvester Scouts across the galaxy. Our music, our stories, our paintings, they're spreading faster than light to civilizations we've never met. Vasquez watched through her window as the crystal ship began to change again, its black surface now showing swirls of color that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of a human heartbeat. Humanity had won, but